because I'm not broadcasting for some reason, so I'm trying to work.
Okay, there we go. Now it should be working. Something. Okay. Yeah, oh. I paused it because the broadcast was skipping. So let me see. Okay, I'm not seeing anything on my desktop audio, so let's see. Polka Pop. Well, this is hey, this fine and dandy. It was working a minute ago. Let me go ahead and kill the program and then reopen it. Okay. Stations. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me in the cavern? Okay, let's see. Got the call going, got the music going.
I don't hear the music.
Susan says she isn't hearing the background music I'm playing. Can you all? Okay, Cave Woman says she hears it, Susan. Earl says no music.
Okay.
So I have no idea what's going on at this point. See the cat that shows up on my broadcast software is desktop audio, and I see that the meter on that going.
Very soft, but I do hear.
Oh. On the Twitch chat, Attain is saying that it's very faint. I can try crank it up a little bit.
Well, for me, your voice is faint through Twitch too, but since I don't listen to you through Twitch, you know.
Oh.
It's up to, of course, the people in the cabin where they can hear you through Twitch.
Yeah. Let me see. Volume. I don't see a volume control on this thing. Let's see if I move this over to this screen. What can I see? Oh, there it is. Okay, I just cranked up the music volume a bit, so hopefully that makes a difference. Sigh.
Any word from Marte?
Not so far. Oh, this is something. The song that they're playing is hip hop, and I'm on a pop station. Or it's supposed to be. What?
I have Twitch volume turned all the way up, and I can barely hear the music.
Yeah. That's what they were saying, is that... Of course, with this song, I don't really care if anyone hears it or not, but let's see. Let me try cranking up the volume a little bit in the broadcast. What about that? Well, actually, this is a little bit quiet anyway.
I just want a million. I just want a real one. Higher than the ceiling. I be in my feelings. I don't wanna feel none, but if I'm being real, son, I just want a million. I just want a million. I just wanna.
I take it that you're in Florida, Shiloh.
I got them big bills. I call them Willy Willies. I got a big bag. It be like piggy. So I be picky. You can't be with me. I just wanna know what it feel like to hold some. I just gotta know what it feel like to blow some. Got a couple
I heard Zeke's voice.
Okay. Dreamer, we do all of the audio for the tour on Twitch, so if you're hearing the music and me on Twitch, you're just fine.
Is Zeke in Skype? I don't see him here, but I thought I heard his voice. Get Susan's voice increased. Okay.
My cup is red. I feel like trippy.
My mic is set to where it's usually.
tricky.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not really seeing him in the Skype window, so...
I'm not either, but I thought I heard his voice. Kaber is asking for more volume for me. My mic is set where it's usually set, which is 30.
So I tell him, give me. So I get the black card, keep my neck chilly.
So I don't know if it's a me thing or it's a Larry thing, since he's having volume issues with other.
Let's see.
Barely.
Oh, I just heard somebody.
There you are. Zeke. Now I can hear Zeke.
Susan or
Just
Larry.
I'm going to be muting the audio for a moment, so...
Oh, thank you, Kaber. So Larry must have done something to increase my volume. Try moving the sliders. Yes, that never gets old with me.
Okay, there we go.
Well, if they're hearing you, that's something, because the throughput for Skype is not showing any movement on the sound board. So if they can hear you, that's more than... What's this?
Yeah, my new bitch is really emotional. Yeah, but she well like a notion. Yeah, she love when I ride in the ghost. She ain't used to the lifestyle I live. She be tryna post. Say, baby, don't get the wrong idea. They already know when I pull up, it's over. I put on the top 50, show what he is. Then I walk off and I'm still the same nigga. A lot of these niggas be changing their weird. I know some niggas that's robbers and felons that's really gon' win at your million. I got a shawty that I met in Cali, but she a little foreign from Paris. All of my exes was sexy. I almost asked one of them women to marry me. I put my home on the map and I've been on my bed, but it's really not too much to carry.
I want to see if I can hear anybody.
I can hear you.
Okay, now I can hear Susan. I couldn't hear her on the
I'm seeing a problem in my control board, so I'm trying to sort that out at the moment.
I have a browser window open, a virtual box open, and Myst Online open all at the same time. And Skype.
Is that a problem
Yeah.
for you, or
No, it's both downloading
you
stuff.
handle that?
Yeah, I have 32 megabytes of RAM. I think you can handle it. I've never had, and I'm on a VPN on top of that. At most, I've actually stressed it.
Well, at some point, it's gonna exact his revenge. Oh, Arte's in Twitch. Yay!
So, yeah. CPU is not really much, but GPU was at 70% at one point in my road though. Wow, I'm using 17 gigabytes of RAM right now.
Baby, don't get the wrong idea. They already know when I pull up it's over. I put on the top of the show of the year. Then I walk off and I'm still the same.
Okay, Mirrobot is in the cleft right now.
Yep.
Is that where you want him, Larry?
Yep.
Oh yeah. I forgot today's tour was that.
Today's tour we're going to.
Oh no, you're on live.
I know. I said.
Actually, I'm having problems with the Skype audio going through my broadcast software. So,
You know, it wouldn't be a tour without technical glitches, even though you're a computer technician.
well, it's because I leave everything exactly the way it's supposed to be, and then the next month I come back and nothing works.
Gremlins.
Yep.
It must be gremlins, or I don't know, some evil spirit or something. You know what? I think your mother sneaks down into your man cave and pranks you by adjusting your settings, right? Is that what's going on? Or maybe it's your huge coffee mug has a life. It springs to life when you're not looking.
Anyway, it's telling me that I need to assign an audio source to the broadcast channel. I open up the properties for it, and there's a broadcast source right there.
Well, you have 3 minutes to sort out.
Maybe more like 5 minutes because I like to give a little delay.
Well, if we don't start on time, everyone's gonna leave. Everyone's gonna rage leave, and they'll never come back. Okay, maybe.
That's if you do it like 15 minutes or so.
Oh, have you tested that?
I studied the other parties, and I noticed, especially churches, churches are known to do this. They will set a time for like 11 a.m. But the service don't start till 11:15.
Anyway,
because they know if they start at 11:15, everyone will be there at 11:30.
I'm not going to mess with this anymore because I think what I'm going to have to do is destroy that particular setting and rebuild it from scratch. And it's a bit late in the day for that, but since they say they can hear you,
they can hear all of us, and we're just waiting for His Highness Arte to log in.
The king arrives.
He's in the game. He's just not in the hood.
Or in the Skype.
Or in Skype.
He
always has
Twitch.
He always has problems with Skype too. I think he has to use his phone for Skype.
I don't know. He didn't. He said he had it worked for him last time, I believe.
Yeah.
Well.
So I do feel like Larry, you and Arte switched roles now.
see. 11:59. So
I'll give it about 3 minutes and then I'll start.
Everyone who's in the hood looks like they're veterans of tours, so I assume they've all buddied Mirabot and they are listening in Twitch.
okay, let's see. This song's about 3/4 done, so I'll kill it after that.
Okay. Susan?
Yes, sir.
Can you have the links ready for Larry's Twitch and for Mirobot's friend request? So that
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I just said,
What I'm
everyone
doing.
who's currently here, you're all's friend. He's waiting for her to log in. She's deaf, but she'll still need access to Twitch to be able to watch what Larry shows on there.
Okay.
Euro, may I please have her key number? Well, wait, let me see if I already have her key number. And then she's IS. Yeah, the reason I have this specific Cavern Tours tune is so I can buddy everyone who normally comes to tours. So let's see. Okay, I
Yeah.
have ISKYE in my buddies list, but she's not online. Now you're saying her name ends with an L now? ISKYEL? If so, if you could please give me that key number and I'll add her to my buddies list.
I don't think there's an L. Hey, everybody. Can everybody
Hello.
Hey, Arden.
Oh,
Hey, you made it.
you know what? Someone just logged in who's a year older than he was during the last tour. So happy birthday. I didn't forget, and I have to rub it in because you're finally caught up with me. I think.
I look on the bright side, Susan. No matter how old we get, you will always be older than
I
me.
know, and I love you so much, I don't mind that you take comfort in that. Because my best friend growing up is 3 weeks older than I am, so I do the same thing to her. So happy belated birthday. It was
Well, thank you.
September what?
It was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday. Yeah.
So thank you very, very lots.
Caver says we're youngsters.
Yes. Well, in life, there's always those that are older than you and those that are younger.
Well, that's true. And some are the same age. Okay, so let's just before we start, let's make sure Scott Miller is in Twitch and listening in Twitch.
So, I'm going to try something.
Okay.
So, instead of on Skype, I'm actually going to do it in Cavern and on Skype. So, I can hold down the tab button to see if people can hear me in Cavern so that they know what to do and stuff of that nature. You never know
you're
when
going to
new
use
people
that
are
horrible
coming.
Moolah voice chat?
The only problem with that
Yeah.
is that there will probably be an echo for everybody because they'll hear you on through Twitch and they'll also hear you in Cavern, and there'll probably be a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might not be the best idea.
Okay. Well, I don't see that Iskia is logged in yet. Earl, did you want us to wait for it's 11:03:04 already? Earl, did you want us to wait for her, or I'm thinking it would be better if we started. Of course, it's up to our commander, Larry.
Say, the sooner
I'll
we
give
get
it one-
started on today's tour, the better, because this is going to be one of the lengthy ones.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna try this, even though it's gonna be a double echo. So, fair warning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cavern Tours. I would like to announce that. Wow, I'm messing up here. So our first setting is to friend Mirrorbot. We will be using his friend code to be able to link to the tours. There will be questions in the tours. Please keep your questions related to those tours, because your answers might be in a future tour. Also, if the sound is sorry about double echo. If the sound go to your wrench tool,
It's
go to
getting too
audio,
bad.
and
Yeah, they're
You're
complaining
echoing.
about your echo. They think you're Yavo.
okay, sorry. I thought I would try it. Okay. All right. Go to your wrench, go to audio, and turn down your sound effects, music, and ambient sounds, so that you'll be able to hear us. Also, we will be keep your window game in Windows mode, and we'll be switching to Larry's Twitch feed, where he will show us things on his Twitch and moving back and forth. Also, please do not climb on any ladders or anything. Stay with the group like that, because it can cause delays and everyone to crash. If you crash and you need to come back, link to Mirrorbot and go to Find Larry, where he will find you. Let's see. Is there anything else I missed?
Just remember to stay off ladders.
Since we're gonna be in confined spaces, we'll all be together all the time. But yeah, if just stick, you can PM Find Larry to Mirrorbot if you become separated from us. Oh, if you happen to like fall out of the age and you're falling through the air and you're about to rail toe out, just PM W to Mirrorbot and you'll port right to him.
And also remember, no ladder climbing. And no graffiti.
Yep, no ladder climbing. You will crash everyone.
Did you say no graffiti, Arte?
No, I said no finger poking.
Ladder.
Oh, okay. Finger poking.
Yes.
Yeah, German. Okay, great.
Is there
In
anything
English.
I'm missing? If there's nothing I'm missing,
Let's link to the bot.
Then let's link to the Mirrorbot to our cavern tour.
What are you typing away on your key there, Susan? You typing out a love letter to somebody? To me, your avatar looks like you're stuck in typing on your key. There you go.
Oh, I had my key open.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It looks like you're typing out a love letter to somebody on your key. You had it open for so long.
You'll get my love letter in about 5 minutes. I'm still composing it.
Aw, shucks.
We got 2.
Oh, that's where we are.
And
There it goes.
I was a
One
bit
more.
disoriented here. Anyway.
Welcome to my world of constant disorientation. We're just waiting for Wooly to link to Mirrorbot.
Okay.
Wooly's looking at the right-hand imager.
Okay.
There.
Anyway, let me go ahead and get started, because we don't want to waste any more time than we possibly can. Okay, first off, today's tour, of course, is going to cover the Bahro Caves. The Bahro Caves are special locations that the Bahro appear to have constructed for Yisha's quests. The appearance of the caves resembles ceremonial locations from their home world, which is called the Spiral Age. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and if you look at the stream window, hopefully this will work. Yeah, there we go. This is a sketch of one of the rooms in the Spiral Age. This is called the Whirlpool room because of the spinning water down at the bottom. And this particular location is called the Maze Room. This location is known as the Ring Room. In case you're wondering what it looks like outside, this is the only view that we have.
One ring to rule them all.
Wrong MMO.
Oh,
So
sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
That's the other game we play. So the Spiral Age is where the Bahro live?
It's where they originated, as far as we know.
Their home world.
Yeah, and this is a tree to be found in that age someplace. And also, when I was, let me go ahead and kill this. And this room that I was using for today's background on my broadcast is known as the birthing chamber. So this is also somewhere in the Spiral Age.
That looks like from the path of the shell when you go in and go around in the circle.
The Yellowbrook Road?
Great tree.
Yeah. In any case, there are only 3 Bahro caves that are known to exist. The cave in the cleft, where we are now, was used as an introduction to Yisha and her journey, and was used to hold a copy of the Relto book for an explorer to claim. Later that was changed. The Hourglass Cave is the second location, that is another location we see, and it was used as a waypoint in her Path of the Shell quest and contains a petroglyph history of part of Yisha's life. The Radina Cave serves as an endpoint for many of her quests and also provides rewards for those who complete them. There is no sign that the Bahro ever lived in any of the caves. Instead, they seem to hang around abandoned places in the caverns, such as the Great Shaft and Kavir. They have been observed foraging for food in the upper levels of the Great Shaft. This cave here, in the cleft, is located under the tree at the end of the cleft. And this is a cave that was made for Yisha. Inside it is a pedestal. Originally, the pedestal held a copy of Relto. Later, when she began to pass out Relto books directly to those she called, it held a Relto page that added pillars for the Path of the Hand quest. For about the last year, explorers who first arrive can make a choice to start with the book or the page. There are several Bahro petroglyphs on the walls of the cave. The first one, the one that I am looking at right now, which is right across from me. This is Yisha's monogram. It's comprised of her name written in Dini and surrounded by symbols of birds, books, mountains, and spiral hands, which are all symbols that were important to her in some way or another. Then, as we go into the second part of the cave...
In the center, is that Denis writing?
Yes, that's Yisha.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and type them in chat. And when Larry pauses, we're going to try to stump Larry. This is something I like to do every month.
Yeah. Excuse me if I'm somewhat uncooperative with that effort.
Well, it's not easy. But Shiloh, I think she's the most likely to stump you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Beginning from the path and going counterclockwise, we see a number of other baroglyphs. The first is the Bahro portrayal of Yisha. This is an effigy that appears in many Bahro pictograms, usually with a personal symbol over its head. But this is how they saw Yisha, or at least how they portrayed them in their drawings. The second, The second symbol is a spiral with a series of dots spaced along it. Spirals appear frequently in Bahro art and seem to have great importance in their lives. The fact that the Bahro homeworld is called the Spiral Age is a mark of how important the symbol was to them. Yisha seems to have adopted it to represent her version of the art of writing. The Bahro use it in several other petroglyphs that are about her. And when it's used for Yisha, that's when you normally see the dots that are spaced along it. Those dots we're not certain about, but they may represent steps in her journey. The third symbol, as we go along counterclockwise, shows a linking book with Yisha's monogram on it, just the writing. And the book itself is placed over a kind of cross. This is a personal symbol of Yisha in Bahro pictograms and is often drawn over her head to reinforce her the identity of the effigy. Okay, let's see. The next pictograph appears to be a drawing of a portrayal of the Denis cavern with what looked like 3 Bahro perched atop it. Below, the next one from that is a depiction of the cleft volcano with stars in the sky and tufts of grass on the ground. Let's see.
Now, are you facing these drawings? Because in Twitch, it's so dark, I don't even see any drawings.
They light up periodically, and I was
Okay.
looking directly at the drawing of the volcano,
Okay.
although I haven't seen it light up in a while, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. There it is. And that's the last of the pictographs that are in this particular cavern. So this one, as I mentioned, was made by the Bahro as an introduction to some of the basic concepts that you run into when you're following Yisha's quests. Okay, next we want to go to the Hourglass Bahro Cave, so please take us there, Murfak.
Shiloh had a question. Would you like to entertain it? Okay.
Sure.
Do we know if the Bahro were barred from their home age until a certain event in another game, or were they able to go there before that?
That's not a question that has ever been answered adequately. Cyan is keeping an awful lot of information about the Bahro under strict confidence. When I talked to Rawa about them, he mentions that the information is being kept secret because there is a possibility that Cyan may make a game in the future in which they are revived, and if they do, he doesn't want to give me any information that may contradict what they might write into the new game.
Oh, nice.
Not to mention the fact that there might be spoilers given out too.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the main thing is that they are very reluctant about giving away information that may be contradicted in future works.
Well, and also it interferes with their creativity. And Dreamer 3 asks what kinds of bones are being used as decorations.
And that question is unknown. Presumably, actually, I haven't the faintest idea because they appear in all of the Bahro locations, the ones that were worked on or made by the Bahro. And maybe they come from their home world, because if you recall from the pictures I showed you a little while ago, that type of decoration appears on their home world as well.
Congratulations, Dreamer 3. You've just stumped Larry. Susan, please tell Dreamer 3 what he has won.
A crate of coffee mugs, just like Larry has.
To be delivered in Eddie County.
Exactly.
In 30 minutes or less.
Earl is asking about Yisha's story being cut off when Game Tap closed, and he's probably talking about the Bahro War sequence, in which a sizable group of Bahro went rogue, and Yisha was basically trying to keep, and the Bahro who followed her were trying to keep them under control. And that story never did get any sort of an end.
The last we heard is Yisha was going to be leading the bad Bahro away. because she has something they want.
In any case, it's time to link to Mirabot again. And here we have been taken to the top of what I call the hourglass cave because of its shape. And as you see, it contains clues for Annone in this particular half. Arcana, sorry. Okay. The location of the Hourglass Cave is unknown. We know the physical locations of the other two. The Cleft Cave, of course, we can walk into, and the Bahro Cave is located in the ceiling of Rodina Cavern, which is one of the 4 main residential and industrial caverns of the Denis Empire. The reason we know about that it's in Rodina is because our key devices told us that in the past when we looked at them. The Hourglass Cave, on the other hand, does not register on a key at all. Its upper part is somewhat similar to the Rodina Bahro Cave, but the hole in the floor does not drop down into a cavern. Instead, it opens into a lower cave chamber with a pond in the center that contains the same algae that live in the Denis Lake. It was once possible for a single person to drop a pellet and view the cave markings down below. Yisha left a diagram in Annone as a clue for explorers following the path of the shell. Let's see. And if you take a quick look at the stream window, I have a copy of that drawing for you to see. Yisha left this diagram in Annone as a clue for explorers following the path of the shell. On it is a number 625, and that is a measurement in Denis time. It was the delay between linking a pellet into the upper chamber and it falling into the pool at the bottom chamber. In surface time, it equaled 15 minutes. Whatever method she used to delay the drop is no longer working. So now, when you link a pellet into the Hourglass Cave, it immediately falls, and you have to already be in the lower chamber to see the wall markings. Other things drawn on the diagram include representations of Bahro, some Arabic numbers, and a few symbols in the Bahro's form of writing. Okay, kill that.
And refresh my memory. Where is that photo from? Which game? Myst
That was from
Myst 4?
Annone. No,
Myst
it's
5?
that was in
Complete Chronicles.
Yeah.
Guru Complete Chronicles.
Oh, okay.
It was in Kadish's office in Annone. It was sitting on a shelf.
Yeah, I had a brain hiccup.
Conveniently placed next to a timer that measured out 625 Proranti. which would tick out, and then you would see that it equals to about 15 minutes.
Okay. If you can, please, Murphy, take us down to the bottom cave. Thank you. And let's see the first symbol.
This is where Larry brews his coffee, by the way.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, if you look on the wall there, Murfak has very kindly isolated one of the pictographs that appear here. When you are visiting the lower half of the cave, most people are focused on copying the cleft viewer settings and do not notice that there are 17 petroglyphs on the walls. They are like the viewer settings in that they only appear in the light given off by a dissolving food pellet in the water in the center. The petroglyphs chronicle important events in Yisha's life, beginning from when she leaves Tilmana on her journey of self-discovery. Dr. Watson discovered that Yisha left notebooks behind in the Great Shaft that cover many of the events shown in the petroglyphs. So this 17 glyph sequence covers is better documented than any other baroglyphs found in the caverns or the various ages. In 2006, an explorer named Brett Middleton conducted his own studies of the Hourglass Cave glyphs. Based on work done by the Baroglyph Study Group, he used their methodology in many of their preconceptions, but his analysis is detailed and imaginative. However, he drew a number of erroneous conclusions. One mistake he made was to call Yisha's monogram a mandala. His definition of mandala was a decorative form of Dini writing, usually presented in a circular frame, that joins the letters of a name or word through overlapping and shared strokes. The mandala may be set within a decorative border. To the best of my knowledge, the term mandala was first applied to this form of writing by Blade Lakem in the DLF forums in June 2004. And that ends his quote. In reality, mandala is a Hindu word that means circle. Mandalas are spiritual and ritual symbols from the Hindu religion that represent the universe. In common use, mandala has become a generic term for any circular geometric pattern that represents the cosmos. It has nothing to do with writing. Another difference is that he tends to call the Bahro identification mark the weeping eye or the crying eye more often than he calls it the mourning eye, as the Baroglyph Study Group did. So now we'll go ahead and take the symbols one by one, and I'll read you his description of them, and then follow it up with my own. So if we can, let's see if Murphy can get the first symbol displayed for us. It seems to be having trouble today.
You don't look at the right direction.
Okay, there we go. So I'm currently looking at it, although it's a little faint at the moment. This was called Baroglyph BC1 for Bahro Cave 1. And what he wrote about it is Yisha leaves home. There is little difficulty in making a complete interpretation of this panel. The staff-bearing figure on the right has Yisha's name in monogram form overhead. Yisha's name is readable in Denis script, and we have seen this monogram in many locations, beginning with the wall at the bottom of the ladder leading down from the journey door in the cleft. The figure with the staff is also found beneath the cleft, and the combination of symbol and glyph identify Yisha beyond doubt. The two figures holding hands on the left represent Yisha's parents to a high degree of certainty, as confirmed by similar representations of Atris and Catherine in baroglyph sequences found inside of the volcano's caldera. The monogram above Atris and Catherine does not yet have a confirmed reading. Most Denis linguists believe it is the word home written in English, which is to say an English word written in Denis script. My own writing notes about this is that, yes, this is Yisha leaving Tomana as a teenager. Atris and Catherine are there to say farewell. My speculation is that she spent a period of time wandering around North America before she eventually returned and settled down in the cleft. During that period, she would have traveled into what is now Utah and seen Newspaper Rock, a Native American pictograph site. Yisha left a copy of sections of Newspaper Rock in Eterkimo. The monograms in the image are Yisha's name above her figure and what appears to be EHIM or EHOM above her parents. Either way, it is not the word home in English as Brett thought it was. Yisha wrote about that time in one of her journals, which she left in the Great Shaft. Alone. There is a powerful conjunction between the in and the out, the beneath and the above. A wound, a mouth, a well, a pit. I wanted to make the journey for myself from where the Denis dug upward, where they almost came to the surface. From the place where Tiana first climbed downward, and where father followed evil into the ground. I began my journey with a heavy burden. It was Tiana who came to Denis and caused its fall. I am from her. I feel I am destined to bring another destruction. Father and mother tried to prepare me, tried to tell me who they thought I was. I still see the power of each. I have the best of each, and the burden of each. And as they watched me leave, I saw the sadness and the fear, but more terrifying, I saw their hope. And I left my comfort to find me. And even as I took my first step away from Tomana, my shoulders ached for the burden I bore. Deep prophecies and weighty destinies. So much to learn and understand about myself. My father said we can never understand. We can only understand more. The more I understood, the more powerful I became, and the more dangerous I became, and the less I understood. Okay, let's move on to the next panel.
Mic.
Baroglyph 2. Brett wrote, Yesha arrives at the cleft. Again, a complete interpretation represents little difficulty. The Yesha glyph and monogram appear next to a volcano glyph, also seen in the cleft, and above a depression in which rooms and rope bridges can be seen. The panel contains numerous depictions of desert wildlife, including a roadrunner in the lower left. A number of lizards and an antelope are also present. Note that the elements of BC1 and BC2 can also be seen in panel VC7 in the caldera of the volcano, which is also reproduced on the cover of the 7th journal of Yesha in Myst 5, End of Ages. That journal is concerned with Yesha's departure from Tomana and desire to spend time at the cleft. My own notes about this panel is that it does represent Yesha living in the cleft. She stayed there for a period that may have been years before she ventured down into the Denis caverns. We know that Atris knew she was there and left messages for her in it. The next panel moving on to panel number 3, please, Murphy. Brett wrote, this one was Yesha meets with local American Indians. T'Challa Trelawney has done extensive analysis of this panel regarding the component glyphs to the symbology of the Hopi, Zuni, and Navajo tribes that resided in that area of New Mexico. For example, the bear glyph above the head of the figure on the left is probably his name symbol. A detailed analysis of these symbols is beyond the scope of this presentation. It is not clear to me whether the fish is being given to Yesha or by Yesha, or what she might have had to trade with these people. However, it looks like there are feathers and a paint pot next to Yesha, and she may have used her artistic skills to create tradable artifacts, much as Anna did when she was living in the cleft. Of a special note are the 3 short parallel lines at each of the cardinal points of the panel. The symbolisms of these is obscure to me, but similar elements can be found in other glyphs such as Bahro Cave 5. It is possible they are somehow related to the 3 strokes of the crying eye or morning eye glyph that will appear in some of the panels in the series. And then my own notes about this. Panel 3. Yesha is trading with local American Indians for food. Since Eddy County is located in the southeast corner of New Mexico, it's quite likely that the natives in question are either Shesinde or Mashkalinda, which are bands of a nation known as Mescalero Apache today. This was a practice she would have picked up from the stories of her parents told her of Anna, who did the same when she lived in the cleft. The natives would have known from stories that people living in the cleft had medical knowledge and other forms of wisdom that were valuable to them. The symbol above Yesha's head is a monogram of her name. The symbol above the native in the foreground probably also represents his name and is a fairly typical Southwest design representing a bear. Since it is the only object of its color in the picture, a guess is that his name was Yellow Bear. Arte and I both speculate that this glyph may show Yesha trading for supplies that she needed for the journey she would soon take to Denis. The fish in the blanket in the center of the glyph are probably items that Yesha was trading for. The drawing of the blanket is seen again in a later glyph. The four symbols to the left of Yellow Bear resemble Kokopelli. The Kokopelli character is found in a number of Native American cultures, being especially prominent in the Anasazi culture. The figure represents the minstrel, who was a spirit of music. Kokopelli is distinguished by his dancing pose, a hunchback and flute. His whimsical nature, charitable deeds, and vital spirit gave him a prominent position in Native American mysticism. It has also been a sacred figure to Native Americans of the southwestern United States for thousands of years. Found painted and carved on rock walls and boulders throughout the region, Kokopelli is one of the most intriguing and widespread images to have survived from ancient Anasazi Indian mythology, and is a prominent figure in Hopi and Zuni legends. Kokopelli is also revered by current-day descendants, including the Hopi, Taos, and Acoma Pueblo peoples. It is considered a symbol of fertility who brought well-being to the people, assuring success in hunting, planting, and growing crops, and in human conception. His hump was often considered to be a bag of gifts, a sack containing the seeds of plants and flowers that he would scatter every spring. Warming the earth by playing his flute and singing songs, Kokopelli would melt the winter snow and create rain, ensuring a good harvest. The next glyph now is glyph number 4. Murphac, can we go to the next glyph? Thank you. Brett wrote about this one that this was, he wrote as a question that he thought that this might be Yesha studying or practicing the art. Different enhancements of this panel are shown to help bring out to some of the varied details of this complex image. This is the first panel in the sequence to present serious difficulty for an interpreter and almost seems out of order in the sequence. In the center of the panel, Yesha is writing in a book. It is uncertain, however, as to whether she is writing an age or simply recording her experiences. However, the linked star pattern beneath her is also seen on the floor of the Nexus Age and in various places in the Denis Cavern, and may be yet another symbol of the art. Yesha is surrounded by the glyphs of 12 books with inscribed symbols, which we will see again in later panels. The books are surrounded by Denis numerals that do not appear to be numbers of significance, and there are 3 lines of Denis script below Yesha Many of the letters are difficult or impossible to read, but the lines do not seem to form words. Within the circular frame are a number of remarkable elements drawn in white, best seen in enhancements. At the top of the frame is the crying eye glyph, next to a glyph of a Bahro that appears to have a crying eye on its chest. These elements are reminiscent of the Bahro gathering seen in Ederkimo. These two elements are flanked by symbols that remind one of symbols seen in Nolabin. Between the crying eye and Yisha is a representation of the Denis cavern, which contains the three central figures from a glyph in Ederkimo. There's a mysterious scene to the right of the journey door in Ederkimo that holds Denis figures. There appears to be a book symbol, possibly the symbol of the maintainers, above the head of the central figure, which also exists in the chemo version when it is examined from the proper distance. On the left side of the frame, there is a register that contains elements from Ederkimo 4, the Garisan panel in the chemo fountain sequence. On the right side of the frame, there appears to be some animal glyphs reminiscent of elements of Ederkimo 16 in the chemo puffer garden sequence. With a couple of exceptions, the elements outside the frame are all related to the other scenes found throughout Ederkimo. The first exception is the figures in the lower left, containing the Anane spheres from Ederkimo 12. The large figure with the circle on his chest is almost identical to the figure to the right of the center of EK7, but with the addition of a glow around the head and a number of follower figures. These figures are placed closely enough to the Anane glyph that they are almost certainly part of the same register. The second exception is on the center right of the glyph, depicting a figure in a glowing arch or doorway above a book with a symbol connecting the left and right pages. Some believe that this is another representation of Yisha, as the figure is more similar to the usual Yisha glyph than it is to other glyphs representing humans. But I am far from convinced of this interpretation. The most difficult aspect of interpreting this panel is understanding why the Bahro glyphs of Ederkimo are represented here. If the panel is in its proper place in the sequence, by Yisha's own words in her End of Ages journals, she did not learn about the Bahro until much later in her journey, as we will see. Does this scene simply foreshadow the knowledge she is soon to gain of Denis history and the practice of the art? My own notes about this panel is that this is Yisha exploring Denis and the linking books to other ages. The pattern she is sitting on is the central plaza tile design from a residential neighborhood. This is a common design found in many other places as well. The age symbols around it are, clockwise from about 10 o'clock, the symbols of Kadesh Telesa, Rebek, an unknown symbol, and then Kalo, another unknown symbol, Teladon, and Anane. And yes, those are the same glyphs that are found in the age of Ederkema. The glyph has white markings overlaid on it that are hard to see. If the colors are enhanced, clockwise from 12 o'clock, the symbols are the symbol of sadness with a Bahro, what appears to be various animals, Denis letters, and the age of Garrison. In the center is the Denis cavern, and what appears to be the same figures found next to the Journey Gate in Ederkema. There is some suspicion that this may have been around the time that the Bahro first noticed Yesha and began watching her. The next symbol, please, Murphy. What Brett wrote about this panel is, Yesha travels to Denis. Yesha began her journey by entering the volcano at the cleft, and it appears that she also slept at least once on the long journey. She encountered some interesting creatures. Bats, both flying and hanging from the ceiling, are represented in the upper right of the panel. Frogs seem to be represented in the left side. In the center is some type of creature that appears to have chelae, possibly a variety of scorpion or spider, or some arachnid completely unknown to surface dwellers. When Yesha reaches the cavern, she meets a person that scholars formerly called teacher or book. We know from End of Ages Journal 8 that this is a master of the Guild of Writers named Callum. Rather than a monogram, Callum is identified by a book glyph, which the Bahro seem to have typically used to identify writers. Note that his ID glyph has 3 parallel strokes at each of the cardinal points, as does panel 3 in this sequence. Although this panel depicts Callum as meeting Yesha upon her arrival, we know from her journals that she spent a great deal of time alone in the cavern before finally encountering Callum in a library. A group of Bahro around a crying eye is depicted just above the cavern. This corresponds to the representative of the cavern in the cleft glyph. My own notes about this panel is that this represents Yesha meeting Callum, a surviving Denis master of the art of writing ages. It shows her traveling through the Denis tunnel system to the cavern, beginning at the cleft. Yesha traveled down the cleft, the great shaft, to the tunnels like her great-grandmother, grandfather, and father before her. You can see her lying on the blanket she traded with the Indians for on the surface in the previous panel. Rawa has said that the frogs in this glyph represent an area of the journey to Denis that was called the Frog Cave. That name was given to it by the DRC during an early expedition to the tunnels. Unfortunately, it is not an area that is accessible to explorers currently. When Dirt, or Denis in Real Time, was released by Eric Anderson as a demonstration, the test that game that he released ended before it got far enough through the tunnels to reach the frog cave. Yesha's note about this that she left in her journals in the Great Shaft reads, "Home was far behind. I was no longer a child. I journeyed deep, deep within myself, deep within the earth, down to the Denis cavern. I was alone for a time as I consumed my heritage, breathing deep the air of the cavern and the knowledge of my people. But the desire for companionship drove me mad. I engaged a Cinnamar as my confidant, and a treadfish in the harbor became my younger brother. I spoke to them as family, and they answered. I swear they answered. Then my mind took a final step into madness when I walked into the library on Agra Island and saw an old Denis man on the floor below me. Now I was imagining people to ease my loneliness. But he was no mirage. His name was Callum, and he was a Denis writer of ages. Okay. And
Larry,
yeah.
before you move on, are you open to catching up with the questions that are being asked?
Okay, sure enough.
It's been so long that I couldn't possibly scroll up far enough to see all the questions. If anyone has a question that hasn't been answered, would you please retype it in chat right now? Now, to start off with, Shiloh has the most recent question about Callum. Do we know how old Callum was at this time? Since he was already master at the time of the fall, I imagine he was pretty up there.
Something that you have to remember is that the Denis had much longer spans than the people on the surface. It was actually not uncommon for Denis to live up to be 350 years old, sometimes older. It was unusual for a Denis person to die before the age of 200. And since the fall of Denis was only about 300 years ago, the fact of survivors being still around today is not actually any surprise at all. When Atris when Gen became trapped in his age while facing the stranger in age 233, Atris and Catherine, after being reunited, found that they could no longer stay on Myst Island because it had too many painful memories for them of the betrayal of both of the death of Anna and the betrayal by their sons. So they wrote another age called Chroma Agna, which they moved to. Chroma Agna was actually rather similar to Myst Island, although it was a larger place. While they were there, they decided that even that was a little too much to bear, and eventually wrote a link back to Earth, where they built Tomana, which was their home in the New Mexico desert. And we think that there's a possibility that it was around about 5 miles or so away from the cleft. But while they were on Chroma Agna, Atris decided that it would to try and revive Denis. And he knew that he couldn't do that on his own. So he actually came into contact with some people in an age he wrote that he convinced to help him, and together they searched for the survivors of the fall of Denis, and actually found quite a few. The people that they found in the various ages that they had fled to for refuge were were more than willing to help try and revive Denis. As a matter of fact, one of them basically met him with the attitude of, "What took you so long?" Anyway, so when they got back to Denis, one of the first thing they did was rounded up all of the bodies from the fall of Denis and gave them proper burials. Then after that, they took a good look at the job before them and realized that for much the same reason that Atris had abandoned Myst, there was really no going back for them because A, the job was too difficult, and B, there were too many ghosts. So at that point, we get to where Atris decided to write a new home for the Denis called Relishon. And after he did that, and we go and that's when we deal with the events of Myst 4 Revelation, where his sons make a reappearance and try to screw everything up. No, I take that back. That was Myst 2 Exile, when he was writing the book. And of course, Myst 4 Revelation falls after that. But the thing is that the Denis people did move to Relishon and are living there still. But Colum was interested in digging through all of the old linking books and manuscripts and other works of the Denis people in Denis, and so he remained behind in order to conduct his research, and that's how, and that's why Yisha was able to meet him. He'd been one of the Denis survivors rounded up by Atris, but he remained behind when the others left. What was the next question?
Well, she just followed up with, so how long had it been from the fall to this meeting? But you might have just answered that. So
it's somewhere in the vicinity of 200 and something years, I think, because from modern times, the fall of Denis was around 300 years ago.
Okay. And then, so if anyone else had asked a question before, they didn't repost the question, so I guess we're done with questions for now.
Okay, so time to move on to the next glyph.
Yes, it is 1208.
Okay. Brett wrote this about this glyph, that he was wondering if it was foreshadowing. He said, "This is perhaps the most baffling panel in the sequence, without even the most rudimentary interpretation in which we can place confidence. It is very unusual for a Bahro glyph to be so uniformly abstract and symbolic, with few elements on which we can hang the beginnings of a concrete interpretation or even a representative name. For example, some have interpreted the generic human figures as followers of the grower on the path of the shell. Yet at this point in the story, Yisha does not know she is the grower and has no followers. Likewise, Yisha's arrival in Denis has already been depicted, So it is hard to interpret this as representing her descent of the great shaft, with smaller figures symbolizing her progress. Spirals of various types are probably the most common and important symbols encountered in baroglyph studies, and a spiral is certainly the central figure or feature of this panel. The same dotted spiral is seen in the cleft glyph. The spiral also seems to symbolize a return to beginnings and the path of water flowing down to the roots of the great tree. Perhaps this panel simply symbolizes Yesha's return to beginnings and foreshadows those who will one day follow her on that path. Yesha is surrounded here by a glorious glow, difficult to see unless enhanced, that we will see again in other contexts in later panels. Furthermore, her monogram is now contained in a book glyph, a theme that will be seen again, but it is a plain book here. Perhaps this symbolizes her limited knowledge of the art at this point in her journey, and or is another foreshadowing of later events. Okay, moving on to my own interpretation. It is unclear what this glyph represents, but it may be the concepts and philosophies Yesha has developed regarding the writing of ages. This spiral first appeared in the Bahro cave in the cleft and is shown in later glyphs. The style is always associated with Yesha, and there are hints that it may represent how she approached the art. The figure spaced on it may represent stages of her education, but again, that's hard. There's no concrete information that we can pin anything on. Okay, moving on to the next panel. Panel number 7. Brett wrote about this: Yesha and Callum at odds. This panel depicts the initial philosophical gap between Yesha and Callum. Yesha wrote in journal number 8, "Trust did not come easily. There was conflict between us, between his ancient rules of Denis that I did not respect, and my creativity which he feared. We fought and feared and battled and screamed." On the left of the central chasm, Yesha is again standing on the spiral symbol from panel 6, surrounded by images of desert life and other more obscure markings. This register represents Yesha's free-thinking, imaginative approach to the art, drawn from her heritage and previous experiences. On the right of the chasm stands Callum, with orderly tables of Denis numerals and letters above his outstretched arms. Above his head is a series of 12 book glyphs, arranged in a square. There may be some type of symbol contained within this square, but it's hard to make out. This register represents the disciplined, rule-bound approach to the art, followed by the Denis Writers Guild. My own notes about this panel: Yesha and Callum argued a lot in the beginning of their relationship, according to Yesha's notes. You see the dotted spiral symbol of Yesha's beliefs and a chasm separating it from Callum's ideas, which were all about the ironclad rules and traditions of Denis art. Yesha counted herself fortunate to have met Callum. Her own training in the art came from her parents, who were self-taught based on initial training by Gin, who himself was self-taught. He had only received a short introduction to writing just before the fall of Denis. As a child, Gin had been apprenticed to the Guild of Books, not to the Guild of Writers. Callum was a fully trained master and was able to teach Yisha things that she would never have learned otherwise. In her journals, she wrote, "Trust did not come easily. There was a conflict between us. Between his ancient rules of Denis that I did not respect and my creativity, which he feared. We fought and feared and battled and screamed until, exhausted, we began to learn from each other. We learned of the power of both, just as father and mother had done." Next glyph. Brett wrote about this one. Yisha and Callum at peace. Yisha and Callum work out their differences and begin to study each other's methods. Tables of the Denis letters and numbers are now shown in the top and bottom margins, reminiscent of something one might see around the blackboard of an elementary school classroom. Again, the tables of letters and numerals are also shown flanking Callum's name symbol. In the same square of 12 books is shown. The same square of 12 books is shown above Callum's head. However, one of the books has been moved to the side, and the area in the center has been replaced with some of the glyphs surrounding Yisha in panel number 7. A waterfall of knowledge or enlightenment appears to be pouring from the center of the square on Yisha's head, although her journal makes it clear that the knowledge flowed both ways. What I wrote about that is, Callum and Yisha eventually came to an understanding, and Callum began to train her, filling in the rather large gaps in her knowledge. By the end of their relationship, he was learning almost as much from her as she was learning from him, which is representative by the symbols of their styles being melded in this glyph. In her journal, Yisha wrote, "So I learned to write with all of the skills that the Denis had known, beyond what my parents had taught me. For their lessons were given by a flawed instructor and by their own trial and error. I learned to write from a master, an opportunity father was never given." To the next panel, please. Brett wrote about panel number 9, Learning Continues. Both Yisha and Callum became closer. Yisha's monogram and Callum's glyph are now side by side between the two figures. The 12 book symbols have been spread out and are now more intermingled with the symbols of Yisha's creativity. Both of these elements show the growth of friendship and the blending of their approaches to the art. However, the background contains an incomplete version of the nexus pattern in which the triangles are not fully linked, possibly indicating that the blending is not yet complete. And my own notes about this is that the relationship continues and Yisha becomes a master of the art. She eventually wrote ages that were wonders to Callum. Her work also shocked and astonished other surviving Denis writers who eventually heard of it. What she wrote in her journals was, Callum's abilities were breathtaking. He knew all the Denis knew when the Denis fell, but I taught as well as learned. There were things that the Denis were forbidden to write, words that they feared, concepts they shunned, rules and boxes. I had no cultural fear of such things, so I dug deeper, asking questions that Callum could not answer. Moving on to the next glyph. Brett wrote about panel 10, Yisha and Callum grow together. The basic meaning of this panel is clear, though some of the details of the symbology remain mystifying. Yisha and Callum have fully integrated their philosophies and cemented their friendship. The name symbols of Yisha and Callum are now merged, as is also seen in the glyph in the cleft. The background, not visible, the background contains a completed version of the Nexus pattern. They begin to work together to extend their knowledge in new directions and begin to grow the tree. To the right of the merged name symbols is another figure that resembles those shown with Yisha on the spiral in panel number 6. To the left is a symbol resembling a square monogram, but it begins with a spiral rather than a Denis letter, and the letters do not appear to be a meaningful word in either Denis or English. The outer border of the panel contains 8 of the bookglyphs from panels 4 and 7 through 9, interspersed with Yisha's desert life glyphs and glyphs representing Bahro. There are also 2 more of the square monograms, neither of which contains a meaningful word. The most intriguing element is the glow around the tree, which is the same one seen around Yisha in panel 6. Perhaps it symbolizes the grower, in which case it's foreshadowing. The position of the glow between the characters may represent uncertainty over the identity of the grower. My own notes. At the time of panel 10, Callum begins to believe that Yisha may be the grower of prophecy, although Yisha did not yet believe it. At this point, Yisha thought that Callum might have been the grower. It was sometime around this period that the Bahro were discovered or chose to reveal themselves to Yisha and Callum. It is not said how Yisha learned to communicate with the Bahro or when it happened. Yisha may have also begun thinking of ways to free the Bahro from slavery around that time, since Bahro are shown in the border around the scene. It was during that time that Yisha discovered the plight of the Bahro and their relationship with the stone tablet. In her journal she wrote, "And together we sought answers. That is how we learned of the Bahro and the tablet. I learned of its power. We grew in knowledge and strength, and Callum and I became one of my dearest friends. I began to think that it was he who would be the grower." The next panel Brett wrote about panel 11, Yisha and Callum meet evil. Yisha and Callum meet someone new in the cavern. The meeting appears to be peaceable, suggesting that the pair did not suspect the hostility that the newcomer would eventually reveal. The new figure is typically referred to as Evil Book or the Enemy, and has not yet been identified. He appears to be a writer since his ID glyph is a book with outward-pointing arrows at the cardinal points. But Yusha's journals do not give him a name. Remarkably, he also appears to be wearing some type of headgear or helmet. The depiction of the cavern follows the usual symbolism, with the crying eye at the top and groups of Bahro above the roof. Again, the intriguing globe makes its appearance in this panel, but it now surrounds Evil Book's ID glyph. If it symbolizes the grower, then perhaps Evil Book is someone who believes he is, or is pretending to be, the grower. The book is already bigger than that representing Callum, and the arrows suggest desire for expanding domination. My own notes about this panel, number 11, is Callum and Yusha meet another writer in the caverns. The larger book symbol with the halos and radiating lines may indicate that he was a surviving guild master of the Guild of Writers. It is true that Yusha never mentions his name in her notes. Some explorers who have studied the glyphs nickname this person Evil Book, but there is no proof that he was actually evil. However, it's certain that the encounter was not a good one, since the scene is surmounted by the Bahro sadness symbol. There is a theory about this person, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. There is, let's see. In any case, what Yusha wrote in her journal about this encounter was, quote unquote, "But evil will find you even in the depths of the earth, and Callum was murdered." Moving on to the next symbol. Evil Book attacks Yusha is what Brett wrote. Evil Book finds Yusha alone and uses the opportunity to strike at her. Again, the glow surrounds Evil Book's ID glyph, but is now black rather than white. 6 books are depicted on Evil Book's side of the panel. Was the art somehow involved in the conduct of the attack? What is the significance of the crossed lightning bolts arching toward Yusha? My own notes were that the man seemed to be angered by Yusha, probably because she is not following the laws of Denis and the rules of writing that the guild had used since the founding of the cavern. I believe the markings represent emotions rather than physical attacks, but because nothing has been found to explain the events, it could be that they were indeed some kind of physical assault. Moving on to the next symbol, please. Brett wrote, Panel 13, Callum joins the battle. Callum steps in and protects Yusha. The ID glyphs of Callum and Evil Book are juxtaposed within a circle that appears to be radiating energy. Perhaps this symbolizes that the contest was a writer's duel of some type, though the historical record does not give us any indications that such events occurred. There are 3 parallel wavy lines at each of the cardinal points of the circle, which may be related to other occurrences of the 3-line symbology. Yusha doesn't seem to be helping, as her monogram is over her head rather than being in the supposed battle circle. Callum appears to be producing some sort of protective force field, but the symbology is once again enigmatic, leaving us unable to explain the true methods of attack and defense that were employed. My own notes about this panel, Panel 13, Callum leaps to Yisha's defense and redirects the man's anger to himself. The arch of lines may represent his attempt to shield Yisha from the man's anger. The idea that he was applying an energy shield to protect her is unlikely. While force fields were not unknown in the Dini Empire, there are only two places that we can find them. One is the Jalak playing grid, and the other is around the space pod orbiting the planet in the Todelmer age. Next panel, please. Panel number 14. Brett wrote, Callum is killed. The skulls on the borders of the panel are typical symbols of death, and Journal 8 states that Callum was murdered. So the panel clearly indicates more than a simple defeat or injury. Evil Book's ID glyph is now bordered in black, another symbol of death. The meaning of the red dots flanking the glyph, there are 5 on each side, is elusive. Yisha's monogram is now dark instead of light, and is positioned above Callum's ID glyph rather than within it or over her head. As well as symbolizing her sorrow over losing someone so close to her, the color may also symbolize feelings of guilt. Would Callum have been left alone if he had not protected Yisha? Or does her guilt run deeper than that because she is somehow responsible for the circumstances that led to the attack or made it possible? But that's something else we'll go into in a little bit. My own notes about this panel is that, yes, the enraged man kills Callum. This was a traumatic event for Yisha and is fundamental to her later actions. She became guilt-ridden, believing that it was her fault that Callum died. There are many hints in her writings that she never got over it. Moving on to the next panel, 15. Thank you. Brett wrote about panel 15. Yisha continues the battle. Yisha finds the courage and ability to continue the battle against Evil Book on her own. Evil Book appears to be sending minions of some kind to carry out his attack. Are these Autotanti that he has either enslaved or allied himself with? They do not resemble the usual glyphs representing the Bahro. Or is this symbolism meant to be abstract as the lightning bolts in the defensive shield in the prior panels? The 12 books usually associated with Callum are depicted to the left of Yisha. This may symbolize Yisha's use of Callum's knowledge in the battle, which more clearly involves the art in this panel and the next one. The 2 books are in the center of the panel appear to be Yisha's mode of battle, as a small symbol of a small image of Yisha is shown next to each. The 4 symbols on the pages of the top book appear as mirror images on the bottom. The colors of the squares in the top book are reversed in the bottom book, and the 2 books are linked by lines. Most likely this is a trap of some kind intended to trick Evil Book and or his minions into choosing the wrong age out of a pair that superficially seem to be duplicates. My own notes about that panel. In her grief, Yisha attacks the man. It is not clear how the battle was fought, although other explorers have published theories. This glyph seems to imply that both attempted to trap each other in prison ages. One thing is certain. There was no mystical aspect to the fight, since there are no records that indicate such a thing was possible. Instead, it might have been a deadly game of hide-and-seek, jumping from age to age. Since they were apparently trying to trick each other into using trap books, that's one way they might have done so. The running figures seen between the books are not at all likely to be minions as Brett theorized. It may just be a representation an evil book scurrying about and leaping from one age to another. Moving on to Bahro glyph number 16. There we go. Brett wrote, Yisha triumphant. Yisha wins the battle against Evil Book. However, the bottom in her ninth journal, Yisha wrote something about destroying the murderer. However, the bottom portion of the panel seems to show Evil Book as simply being trapped in a book bearing the dark and light square from the top book in panel 15. It is not clear whether Yisha's use of the word destroyed is exaggerated or whether the symbology simply fails to indicate Evil Book's true fate. Evil Book's ID glyph is either missing or has shrunk considerably. The triumphant Yisha is now depicted with the glow symbol, more radiant than ever, around her monogram. This adds support to the interpretation of the glow as representing the grower. As in panel number 9, the glyphs and symbols of Callum and Yisha are mingled on the left and right borders of the panel, indicating the full range of her knowledge. What I wrote about this was, the idea that they were using prison agents against each other is supported in this glyph. In the end, Yisha won, and the man is shown trapped in a prison book. It was after this that the Bahro began teaching Yisha about how they got around linking. It's conceivable that Yisha could have tricked Evil Book into a death book, as her great-grandfather Atris the Elder tricked Agaeris into one when Denis was destroyed. But there is no irrefutable evidence that it wasn't simply a prison age. In her journals, she wrote, "Power is a gift, power is a curse. I learned of the fearsome power I wield on that day, the day of Callum's death. In a fit of rage, I destroyed the murderer and destroyed my innocence. And again, I learned that most things cannot be returned to how they were. And my power continued to grow even as I began to see that the prophecies of the grower might speak of me. My destiny began to be fulfilled. But there was still more. The least. Abused, mistreated, misunderstood, ignored. They were mocked and scorned, and their hearts still show their pain. But they continue to serve. Such power they have, and yet they serve. They treated me with kindness, and I learned from them. They respected what I was becoming. With them, I learned new laws, new rules, and new powers. I used the powers to care for a tree to come, and the tablet allowed me to grow beyond Tiana, beyond father and mother, beyond Denis, beyond Callum. The tablet held them. The tablet chained them. The tablet held me. The tablet empowered me. I watched with them. I waited with them. I learned with them. I called them from captivity and grew while they gathered. Together, we became both weak and strong. And then my time came, my time to take the tablet, my time to choose. I was ready. I felt the pull of holding it, of channeling it and releasing the full power of the Bahro. I would right the wrongs. I would set things the way they should be. I would choose well. I could not fail. I am the grower. I was so sure, so strong, so wise. But I didn't open myself and listen to the Maker. The noise of me drowned his quiet voice. And I failed. Failed to see anything beyond myself and what was obvious. And pain came quickly when I realized what I had done. The tablet returned, and the Bahro continued to serve. The pain still burns me, but the powerful Bahro simply wait and serve. Pain is often how we learn, but it is not for us to give. We are not the teachers. We must not abuse them. We must not abuse the Bahro. Moving on to panel number 17. Brett wrote about panel 17. Yesha gathers followers. The called come to the cavern and learn from Yesha. Yesha's monogram and Callum's ID glyph appear separately above her shoulders as she sits at the root of the tree and beckons. 5 book symbols appear below Yesha's arms, but most of them appear blank. Perhaps the filled book represents the past, while the empty books represent the unwritten future. It seems odd that the glow and the spiral do not appear in this panel, which would help confirm my tentative interpretations. It also seems odd that no Bahro figures are depicted. What I wrote about this was, this glyph probably represents Yesha enacting her plan to call explorers to come to the cavern and each free a Bahro soul from bondage. This plan fulfills a passage in Words of the Watcher, in which the Watcher refers to people from called to the cavern as the gathered. Yesha herself eventually grew angry at the slow progress of the plan, and went as far as insulting the called who did not respond. In one of her recorded messages in the Great Shaft, her exact words were, "Have I not become the grower? The grower. Yet all I grow is anger. Watching them call, watching them fail, watching and waiting. I am the grower. How can I wait much longer on such fools?" She spoke of watching each of the Bahro call for a gathered to come, and evidently it was not often successful, prompting her to label those who did not come as fools. A theory has been proposed that the people who hear Yesha's call may have a trace of Denis ancestry. That possibility exists because a number of workers vanished early in Denis' history while they were digging air ventilation shafts to the surface. However, that's pure speculation, and there is no evidence that supports or refutes it. It goes along with an idea that the Ahmad people whom Gien was visiting when he met and fell in love with his wife Keita were also descendants of the missing Denis workers. Again, there is no evidence to support or deny the idea. There is a vertical multicolored line on the right-hand side of the glyph. That particular line is there to divide the end of the sequence from the first beginning glyph. So that is the end of this camera. The last thing that we have to talk about before we move on is who is Evil Book. Brett wrote, "To close this analysis, I would like to venture deep into speculative waters, and offer a suggestion regarding the actual identity of Evil Book. My discussion will explore the supporting evidence for my contention, but will make little effort to be fair and balanced, though much of the evidence is certainly capable of other interpretations. Be warned, my previous theory regarding the identity of teacher was quickly exploded by the release of End of Ages, so my track record is not good. I strongly suspect that Evil Book is none other than ex-guild master Kadish. My suspicion begins with Yisha's apparent fixation on that character. His age of Talessa is one of the 4 primary ages chosen to when she passed out her lessons in her in the path of the hand. His life permeates the lessons of the second journey along the path of the shell, and his death and rebirth are intimately involved in the climax of that journey. What makes this defrocked writer, minor merchant, and pathological liar so important? From Yisha's Bahro cave speeches in Uro, Ages Beyond Myst, she said, "Only death can conquer pride so strong." For Yisha, it was death that moved me to return. I submit that the source of her pride was the power she gained from her studies with Callum, and it was Callum's death that shook her out of it, making this statement a reference to the battle in the sequence. Yisha feels responsible for the death of Callum, though Evil Book killed him. From Yisha's third imager speech in the End of Ages, she said, quote unquote, "Did I ask to cause the death of Callum?" I believe her pride led her to an act that ultimately resulted in the battle with Evil Book, which is why she feels responsible, and why Callum's death was the cure she needed. If she did not feel responsible, then Callum's death would simply have been a tragedy and not a lesson, and she has already told her that the lesson of death is about the consequences of pride. When did this prideful act take place? I suggest that her pride was at its greatest height in the first flush of discovering her power, as she learned from Callum and taught him. What was that prideful act? The torn note written by Yisha and found in Kadish's empty vault is plainly written by someone in the grip of a pride that borders on megalomania. From the 4th fragment, quote unquote, "These are the powers of gods, and I now have this power." This note suggests that Yisha saved Kadish's life during her prideful period. Did Yisha just leave him in the vault with no option but to link back to Denis and die there? Just to give him a nobler end than the one he originally chose for himself? Even that would demonstrate incredible arrogance on her part, but it seems unlikely. I suggest that she brought him forward in time to make use of his undoubted skills in the rebirth of Denis, so his end would not be the waste that she considered it, based on her scrawling on Kadish's last testament. Yisha's victory in the battle also resulted in a loss of innocence, according to her journals. In addition to pride, was innocence required to motivate Yisha's actions in the vault? I think the answer to that is yes. A sophisticated person would have thought twice about using such wondrous power to alter the history of someone of Kadish's character. I believe it took a significant degree of naivety to save his life long after his death, and that Yisha was then naive enough to expect lasting gratitude and respect from the deceiver. This again suggests that the rescue of Kadish took place prior to Callum's death, as Yisha no longer had the innocence afterward. The vault note is in fragments. Why? I believe that Yisha later tore it up in angry remorse because her prideful act of saving Kadish's life went tragically wrong. If she had simply saved Kadish's life and let him go his own way, or if Kadish had gone on to do good works and be kind to widows and orphans, I don't see what reason she would have had to revisit the vault and tear up the note, or add Telessa to her list of lessons about pride and death. Her proud act would have justified itself in this case. But these things become understandable if her act turned out to be a major mistake with a deadly impact. The glow symbol suggests that Evil Book considered himself to be the grower, or at least was a pretender to the grower's powers, assuming my interpretation of the symbolism is correct. This description certainly fits what we know of Kadish. Thus, Kadish would have had a strong motive to attack Yisha and or Callum once he found out that one of them might be a competitor for the title. This is especially true if Kadish had actually deluded himself into believing that he was the grower. His hunger for power would have led him to try and wipe out any potential challengers, and he certainly couldn't have deceived Yisha or Callum into becoming followers. Kadish was originally a writer, as Evil Book seems to be. Evil Book's red costume is suggestive of the red cloak on Kadish's skeleton, and the pictured headgear is suggestive of the helmet found in the alternate vault. While these parallels are far too thin to stand on their own, I believe they do add to the weight of the other evidence. And that was Brett's theory. Brett Middleton's theory about Kadish being Evil Book is an attractive one and is very popular among many explorers. However, I don't believe it is true. There are several reasons, but the most compelling one involves the time travel aspect. We know from her journal that Yisha did not learn from the Bahro until after Callum was murdered, and it was the Bahro form of the art that allowed her to move time. That means her project to rescue Kadish would have to have taken place after Callum was dead, rather than before, as Brett theorized. Knowing that, I simply cannot believe that Yisha would have gone back in time to the fall of Denis and rescued Kadish just to bring him forward in time to murder her mentor, knowing that's what would happen. There is also the statement she made about the writer nicknamed Evil Book. She said, "But evil will find you even in the depths of the earth," and Callum was murdered. The key is how she phrased that. She said that evil found them, not that she brought evil to them. If she truly blamed herself for the event, I think that's what she would have said. In the end, though, it's up to each and every one of you to decide for yourselves what you choose to believe about the event. All that really matters is that it was the second major traumatic event in Yisha's life and was instrumental in driving her to hate her Denis heritage. Up until then, she'd had a fair and objective views of Denis society, and after that, she basically depicted them as being baby murderers and eating kittens.
Oh my gosh.
It seems definite that Yisha did travel back in time to an alternate instance of Kadish Talesa and rescued Kadish before he died. But what became of him after that is a point of disagreement among many explorers. But it's also rather obvious that Yisha did it because of her own pride and arrogance. Unfortunately, Yisha was not done with that attitude after she saved Kadish. She went on to try to free the Bahro by claiming the tablet that bound them. She got so far as holding it in her hands, but her pride got in the way, and she tried to use it selfishly, and so she failed. Yisha may have grown up a little after that incident. Even though she wanted the tablet with all her heart, she told Dr. Watson not to give it to her when he began his quest for it. Yisha has changed over the years. She is not the same person who left Tilmana. She is not the same person who met Callum, or who was attacked and who watched Callum die. She is not the same person who failed with the tablet. It is her earlier failures that caused her to create the Path of the Hand. It was her failure to win the tablet that allowed her to set Dr. Watson on the quest for the tablet and then keep her hands to herself. But because she was able to warn him not to give her the tablet and then let him do with it what he needed to, that her quest to free the Bahro from their bondage finally succeeded, and that she was eventually able to see her father again. Sadly, her work was not over. When the Bahro became free to choose for themselves, some chose an evil path to follow. And that is it for today's tour. We'll be picking up with the Bahro Caves again next month. Do we have any questions before we shut down?
Looks like Arte has been answering all of them due to our lack of time here.
All I'm hearing right now is a kind of buzzing noise over the someone's microphone.
Oh, can you hear me?
You're very distorted.
Really? Oh.
Not on my end.
Well, see, are you able to talk?
Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2.
Okay, it looks like Skype is completely futzed up at the moment, so we're not getting anything from the other people involved in the call. So, let's see. I guess I'll have to figure out this stuff for myself. First off, the next cavern tour is going to be on October 26th. Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
I'm seeing a question here from Korov. How do we know that what we call the alternate vault isn't actually Talesa Prime? And the fact that we have to link to it is proof of that, because you cannot link from one place directly to itself if it's in the same universe. Basically, an age. We tend to think of an age as being a small area, but it isn't. An age actually covers the entire universe that world is in, not just the world itself. So the idea that you could link from a full vault to an empty one directly completely blows the idea that it's the same place out of the water. And let's see. Scroll back up here and see if I missed anything else. Oh, we got hit with a whole bunch of spam, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. As you may guess, Rawa has not written any Denis swear words, but let's see. Oh yeah. But as far as Denis insults, for instance, we do know the word, the Denis word for idiot, which is linita.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, it is 101.
I'm not able to hear. I'm not able to understand a word that anyone else is saying over the Skype chat. Oh yeah. The other thing is that I'm going to bring up. Okay. If you look at the stream window, I'm currently displaying a list of today's events in the cavern. Arte, can you try talking and so that we can find out if people can understand you? I won't be able to, more than likely, but they might. Because there are basically three things going on today that haven't happened yet. Two of them are Arte Story Night sessions at 1400 key and 2330 key in Sano's hood. And then Ayohik Night in the competitive Myst Online League home hood. That's at 2100. Okay. Arte, go ahead and... okay. I can't see Arte's... any activity from Arte in Skype window. His icon's not flashing.
Can you hear me, Larry? Or... no?
I can hear you, Zeke, but I don't think Larry can.
Ooh,
I see
dear.
Zeke and Susan trying to talk.
Oh dear.
Okay, can the tourists hear Susan and Zeke and Larry talking?
Anyway.
They can hear our team.
Since this is completely futzed up on my end. Okay. Yeah. You can find out what's going on in that, with Arte at 1400 key here in the cavern. Again, that's Sano's hood. In the meantime, I'm going to have to see if I can fix my Twitch stream.
Oh, Arte's fixing to announce.
Okay.
Dude's Twitch.
But that's it for today, so thank you all for coming. And I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now. Sorry about that. I just restarted the stream because Arte's was writing in the Twitch stream. So he's going to be making an announcement there.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Larry? Larry, I don't think you can hear us. That must be
After
frustrating.
what I'm hearing, Susan, it's more or less the adult dialogue from Peanuts, the Peanuts movies.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, your system is not good. Of course, he can't understand me saying his system's not good.
Sometimes it's audio settings in Skype, and then it's audio settings in your PC, and you don't know what it is. Sometimes the computer just won't work, no matter what you try.
I'm gonna type in Skype chat. Everything that was announced.
Yeah, I texted that. Oh wow, that's me that came up there. Susan, I actually took my browser that I have. I can take screenshots. So I took pictures of the Bahro glyphs on the Twitch window.
Oh, cool. Nice. So, that's a good idea.
But they're not going to be clear, so unfortunately. Okay. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, because I'm aware you can't take, I agree with you, you cannot take key picks in there for some reason. I don't know if that was intentional by Cyan because the Bahro wouldn't allow pictures or,
Or what we're seeing was an untold story that was supposed to be told later.
Ah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
And so, I do have pictures I can send to Larry at least.
Well, I'm gonna get going. It's 13:07, so I gotta start my day, my formal day. I did feed the dog though. That was important.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody. Good night, Murphac.
Take care. Goodbye, everyone.
Take care. See you next month.
See you, everybody.
See you.
Bye.
Toodles. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.